In this video, we're talking about Adobe Lightroom Classic presets. Today, I'm going to show you how to install them and use them coming up. Hi, and welcome to It's Never Too Late to Learn. If you're new to this channel, my name is Charles Cabrera. It's my mission to bring you short and easy tutorials, especially if you're just starting out with Photoshop, Lightroom, or photography. If you like to learn with short and easy tutorials, please consider subscribing and hit the bell notification so you don't miss anything. If you want to learn about using presets in Adobe Lightroom Classic, you're in the right place. You're going to learn how to install them and use them. Also, I'm providing images for you to download so that you can practice with. In the description, I'm also adding time codes in case you want to jump around to different sections. So let's get on with the tutorial. So what are Lightroom presets? Well, Lightroom presets are nothing more than files that allow Lightroom to apply development module settings to an image. So the presets that you have available in Lightroom are in the preset panel here on the left, and all these presets are either presets that have been created in Lightroom or shipped with Lightroom or bought from a third party, but they all live right here and they're organized in folders on your file system, and I'll show you that later. But there's another place where these presets live, and I'll show you that right now. So now we're in the library module, and up here at the top where it says saved preset, if you drop this down, here is a list of all the presets that are in Lightroom right now, and so you could use them here also. So I just wanted to make you aware that they're available here too. So why use presets in Lightroom? The big advantage of presets is that they are consistent and quick. So if you always make the same few adjustments to an image, presets let you apply them all with a single click. So here's an example. If I wanted to, on this image here, I go over to presets here on the left hand side, and I'm hovering over these presets, and if I say click on the punch, it changes the image with the preset. And what I could do, what would be great here is to, if I had the same punch that I wanted to apply across images, I could just go to the next one in the film strip down here, click on the punch, and each time I do, I'm applying that same preset. Or I can change it to black and white. And if I wanted the next image to black and white, I can click on it, and you could see that each image, as I hover over it, it is black and white now. So that's how you can apply a preset to multiple images if you know that that's what you want to do with them, and it's a consistent setting that you can go across all these different images. Also, if you're starting out and you're not entirely familiar with all the Lightroom editing tools, presets offer you a way to give you a unique look while you're continuing to learn about Lightroom and all its settings. So as an example, what you can do is, if I went back here to the preset panel and clicked on punch, and you can see over here on the development module panel where the controls here have changed, and so you can kind of get an idea what presets really do, what settings happen when you click on a preset. Before getting into examples of creating presets and working with them further, I'd like to show you where they're stored. So Lightroom does allow you to access your presets. You can get to them by opening Lightroom Preferences, which you'll find in the edit menu on PC and the Lightroom menu on Mac. I'm going to the preset option here in preferences, and there's a couple different things I wanted to show you about where these are located and some of the file formats. So if I click on show Lightroom develop presets, and if something to note is user presets here are presets that you create within Lightroom yourself, and they can also be presets that get loaded one at a time. They would go here through, and this is through the user menu, and I'll show you that. But all these presets here, no matter where they came from, have a .xmp extension, and most of them were originally a different file format, and I'll show you that. And what happened is when you load a lot of presets at once, you're going to use another option, but those presets are going to get converted to this file extension right here, the XMP, and I'll show you right now. So in this location, Lightroom has developed presets, and as an example, these two folders were imported. They were something that were purchased, and they have the extension LR template. So if you have a lot of presets that you purchased, you can drag the folder of presets right here, and what's going to happen is, now take note, landscape Lightroom presets here. Lightroom is going to store them in this other location and change the extension. That's just their process. But that's how you know where to put your presets and where to find them. And just to go over this again, anytime you want to load a lot of presets at once, you would copy them under develop presets here in this folder location, and Lightroom will make them available on the left hand side. You'll see that, but we're going to go over an example of adding preset right now so that you can see that. If you've got a lot of presets to load at once, like say you bought some presets from somebody online, you can go into show all other presets and click on develop presets, and you can just take a folder that contains all the presets you bought and drag them in. Make sure that they get under development presets though. And then after you drag them in, you have to relaunch Lightroom. And as you saw there, Lightroom displayed a message saying that it had converted all those development presets, all the custom ones, to a .xmp. And that's where I was showing you how the extension of some of these Lightroom presets that were originally .lr template get converted by Lightroom, and see they're right here to a .xmp format. And if the presets are already have the .xmp extension, they go here, and you just drag them over into the settings folder and relaunch Lightroom. If you've only got a couple of presets to import, you can do it through the preset panel. Click on the plus, click on import preset, navigate to where that preset is, click import, and Lightroom has put the preset that I just imported into the user preset area. So now let's get into previewing and applying some presets to these images. But first, notice on the left hand side here, so this list of presets can get rather long. Well, what Lightroom will allow you to do is if you click on the plus and go to Manage Presets, you can uncheck these options or preset names, and they will not be displayed on the left-hand panel. So if you just want to work on certain presets, what you can do is just deselect any of these you want, click Save, and now this list has gotten a lot smaller and probably a lot more manageable. But that's just a little tip before we go forward. So a great feature that's built into Lightroom is the ability to preview one of these presets before you actually click the preset itself to make it take effect. So if I hover over all of these presets, so you can see that the image, the big image over here in the center, is changing as I just hover over each of the presets. That little navigator window up on the top left changes too, but I think this window with the subject right here in the middle is a lot better to be the judge of how this is going. So you can preview and not actually have to click on the preset to make the setting stay. But if I do select, let's say, editorial magazine 4, and right away I'm going to show you how to undo what you just did if you don't want that preset. Down here in the history panel, you can go back, and I can say, in this case here where it says export, I can click there and it takes me back to where I was before I clicked on the preset. So if I click on that preset again, I can say Command Z, and that'll undo that on a Mac. I can come up here to the edit menu and say undo preset. So that's how you would back out of something in case you didn't want it. A couple of ways there. So now that you know how to apply a preset to an image, there's a menu right here. If you highlight or you're already on a preset and you right click, there's a menu of all these functions that you can do with this particular preset. So right away, if you wanted to add these to favorites, there is a tab here. That is where you can add your favorite presets. Again, narrowing down all the things that you have to work with and putting them in an area that you can go to them quickly. So continuing on with the menu, this apply on import is, and notice the little plus sign. So when you import more of these images that say are possibly similar, and you import this same preset is going to be applied to it. So when they're brought into Lightroom, they'll have the same effect. There may be a time you feel like you have a lot of images that are taken in the same light, same camera and everything, and you want them all to look the same. You already have a preset for them. This is what you would do to import them in. So to continue with this menu, you can rename your preset to anything you choose, of course. You can move it. Say if you wanted to move it to another group, and in this case, it's the user presets was where this would get moved. And of course you can delete it and it will prompt you to whether you want to delete it permanently or cancel. You can show where it is on your file system so you know where it's located at, and that's where it's stored on your computer. Now this next option is interesting here. So if I wanted to come over here to the settings and I wanted to change my exposure a little bit, drop it down and change the temperature, cool it off a little bit. Just as an example, what I can do is right click on this and say update with current settings. So I am updating that preset, and here I can actually choose which of these settings that I want to update. Say if I want to, first of all, check none. So now if I want to update the treatment and profile, which is your color, temperature, and say exposure, say update. Now I've updated this preset with those values. In Lightroom, if you want to make changes to a preset that's shipped, you actually can't. So if I try and right click on this punch, this is the only options I get for the menu. So that's how you know that you're on a actual Lightroom supplied preset. Whereas when we were back over here on this editorial magazine presets, you got more options. So that's how you know that's a custom preset. Another feature here in Lightroom, if you want to say create a preset, and this is the name you give it, and it's in the same group as where you think you want the new preset to be, and you say create. So you're going to be presented with this duplicate preset name. So it'll give you options here. You either replace the current one with the same name in the same group, or duplicate it, or rename it. So it kind of, Lightroom kind of stops you and makes you think about which preset that you are renaming. If it's the same name in the same group, it will stop you and give you this dialog. So just a heads up on that. Okay, so let's start with the landscape this time. Now, just like last time, over here on the left-hand panel, as I hover over each of these presets, you can see that the view is changing. And you can decide which ones you like to basically apply here. So before we go any further, I kind of want to give you a power tip about presets. I believe that presets, and this is something I recommend for you, it's a starting point to your own editing. The main reason is, like in the instance of this landscape photo here, whoever created the preset was not here, so they didn't experience the same thing we're seeing here, like lighting, time of day, camera. So they were in a different scene when they created those presets. So what I'm saying is that you should use presets as a reference and tweak them to your liking when you see the photo. So we'll go back to the preset and see what we can do here. Okay, so back to the presets. And let's say we want this one. So as I was saying, maybe your eye kind of likes this one the most out of all of them, but you might want to come over here and I'm not showing that side of the panel, but reduce some of the saturation and the vibrance. Maybe you think the colors are too strong. This is to your taste. And then what you can do, if you're going to, say, be taking more photos or have taken a lot of photos in this area and you want to import them in to look the same, you can say create new preset. Now, since this preset has a lot of adjustments in it, we can say check all, and any of the things that we've changed are included here. So we changed the saturation and the vibrance right here. So all we need to do is give this another name, and we can choose another group to put it in and say create. So that new preset is right here now. So if I click off of it and click on the new one I just created, I basically used another preset that somebody else did as a reference, changed it to my liking, to my eye, and resaved it. Also, what you can do is say this is the image that I have here in Lightroom, and if I'm familiar enough with any of these controls, I can come in here and bring up my exposure a little bit, give the photo a little contrast, some clarity, add some vibrance and saturation if that's what I want. And then up here where it says presets, click on the plus, create preset. Make sure that everything is selected here. Or I could have just, that's the safest way to do it if you're creating a new preset. New preset. I'll name it, and it's going to be in the user presets group. Say create, and now I've created my own new preset. So presets are a great way to add some creativity when you're editing your images. They can give you some consistent looking images if you just want to make small changes, or if you want to buy some and use them in your editing process. It's highly recommended that you, in that case, use them as a starting point and then tweak them to how you want to see with your eye. So that brings us to the question of the day. How are you going to use presets in your editing process? Let me know in the comments below. So thanks again for watching. If this video was helpful, please hit that like button. And if you want more tutorials on Lightroom, check out these here. And until then, it's never too late to learn. See you in the next video.